Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to, it's a relationship video in regards to that relationships should be an asset and not a liability. So I used to live a lot of my life in idealism. I think that's really common as an Aquarian. So it's taken a lot to through the years and through life experience to be a little bit more rational and discerning about certain things. And what I would say is, I guess I also have a pretty sound business mindset that it's kind of like an entrepreneurial mindset that some of my thoughts, I do not think love is a business at all, but I think love can be almost like a business when you can understand certain concepts. So I believe relationships of all kinds, whether they're romantic, platonic, work relationships, should be an asset and not a liability. And the one way you see that is in the business world or at any job. A job can only function when a team is operating at, I'm not saying at always like a high capacity, but the person who's the weakest link can bring a business down or a team down. So when a business starts to see that somebody is more of a liability to the company or to the team, most likely they're going to get fired. And there's, it's hard because it's like, if you have an employee that's being insubordinate and things like that, like most likely they're going to get fired. Maybe that company just wasn't right for them. But, I talked about this in a prior relationship video, that is, if you are in a relationship, if you are searching for a car, you're going to weigh all the cars that you're test driving at the same level, and you are going to want to buy a car that has a little bit of a guaranteed outcome that's going to get you from point A to point B safely, without it being a liability or a lemon. I mean, that's why people want to buy a new car versus a used car. It's because the used car is like a gamble. You don't really know what you're going to get. So I don't want to treat this as having like a business mindset, but what I mean is that a relationship of all kinds, but specifically romantic love relationships, should be an asset and not a liability. Easy things that are commonly seen where relationships start to become a liability is through generally extremism. Somebody who is an alcoholic or an abusive person in general, that's going to be very, very difficult for a relationship to thrive. So obviously, somebody being a sex addict, an alcoholic, those are massive liability issues. Somebody who is constantly in and out of depression and things like that, that can hinder some relationships, especially if they don't know how to control it or if they don't have a support system. They're like a counselor or a therapist. I don't think you should judge people based on anxiety and depression and things like that. I think it's only an issue when people do not help themselves. I've seen this in divorce support groups where somebody who's had a spouse or a husband or wife, doesn't matter the gender, who's gone through stages of wanting to commit suicide or who are going in and out of deep phases of depression, it puts a massive strain on the marriage when the spouse is trying to help them, but that person who's suffering is not choosing to help themselves. That's where the relationship can become a massive liability. I think if somebody can take charge of their mental health, whether it's, finding some spiritual well-being, going through some form of counseling, support groups. If somebody's being proactive about their mental health issues, that's a good sign. And that is obviously more of an asset than the person who is not taking responsibility for their emotional or mental health. The thing is, most of us, men and women, we have different needs and wants, but the reality is a lot of times men and women, we all want the same thing. We just want somebody who's stable, who's consistent, who will bring us, who will kind of uplift us. accept us for who we are, love us unconditionally for who we are, work through things like mistakes and stuff like that. Obviously, some things that are mistakes like infidelity are that, cheating, that's something that's like usually kind of cuts the cord of relationships. But, certain things like making a mistake, like I dropped the ball on, booking tickets for this thing, and now the concert's sold out, or oops, I accidentally forgot, that it's our kids' concert on Thursday and I had to work late. I scheduled a meeting. Like that type of stuff does put some hindrances on a relationship, but it might not necessarily cut the cord unless it's a consistent problem. Somebody who is so self-absorbed that they can't remember anything about their spouse or their partner or their family, that is going to cause a lot of issues. A love relationship should push somebody or challenge somebody to better themselves without judging or shoving things in people's face. I believe the best relationships are where two people are individuals. They can grow as individuals, but they also grow as a couple. And then obviously, like, I believe in God and stuff, so you have God's energy that's helping that relationship. So it is a union of three people. It's, two souls in God. So it is like a trinity or that triangle. So I think that if a relationship starts to become a liability, that is where a lot of people start straying from relationships, and or they start getting a wandering eye. I've been reading and listening to stuff from feminist points of view and from red pill points of view, and there are so many, these red pill manospheres that I think there's truth on both sides. It's just both sides of the party are so bloody extreme that we need to come to the middle, because I think extremism of any point of view of anything, whether it's politics, religion, work, it can be a liability in a relationship. And when something is extreme, or like a partner feels ignored all the time because their husband is constantly choosing work over the family, she's gonna maybe eventually leave the relationship, or maybe she'll end up getting a wandering eye and cheating or emotionally cheating and stuff like that. It's because it's like people are feeling neglected. Being in love with somebody is, what I've learned through divorce, is that it is almost a full-time job. Some people say it is a full-time job, not like a full-time job. And then you have people who say your commitment to God is like a full-time job. And so the thing is, if serving God is a full-time job, and serving your spouse is a full-time job, and you have to work a full-time job, and then you have to keep a track of kids, how the hell do we balance this stuff? So not everything can be a full-time job, but we have to have balance of priorities and things in our life. And we have to be accepting that we are going to go through time periods where, the marriage or the relationship might suffer a little bit for the well-being of the child who might be sick with cancer, or, one person needs to focus on God first and kind of find himself or herself, and then, eventually come into a relationship. So, I guess I'm sharing so many random thoughts about this. I'm kind of trying to come full circle here, but I just think that massive shifts or changes or things that are liability in a relationship, it's just not going to happen long term. A relationship needs to be like a garden. It has to be nourished. It has to be fed enough water, and it has to have enough nutrients in the soil in order for the produce and the fruits to grow. And so when you're neglecting either a partner, or your partner is just having certain things in their life that are massive liabilities, I don't think it's going to thrive. And liabilities might actually be the other relationships and friendships in your life. I've listened to a lot of red pill manosphere stuff, and they're teaching guys to not exclusively date, but to date several women at the same time. Some of it is talking about being sexual and intimate with multiple women at the same time. For me, that's really repulsive and it's disgusting. And that type of stuff pushes a lot of good women to want to be married to be intimate now, or it's forcing them to kind of become more religious to some degree, to seek that union of sexual intimacy with an actual either committed partner or with a committed husband. And some of that has to do because it's a protection barrier. So if like for example, if some guy for me or in my life has multiple options and it's not an exclusive relationship, there will be certain things that I have to do to protect myself emotionally and to guard my heart in order for me not to go down the rabbit hole of being, falling in love with this person, because those other women in his life are a liability, and that is going to be a liability in my life, because the reality is if a guy has 3 different options, there's a 33.339% chance that I will be the chosen one in that. And so the irony of all of this, it almost forces women now to have multiple options as well. So I think society is falling apart because we are getting very fear-driven through this world of having liabilities. And there are certain massive liabilities, like I said earlier. If you have an addiction of some kind, that can be a liability in a relationship. And the other person who has some fear or is concerned, that is rightfully so. Obviously if a guy can't control his drinking, that's a massive red flag. You gotta pay attention to those things. But it's like, where are they at in their life development, and are they willing to get rid of relationships that are a liability? I will say this from somebody who's gone through so much hardship and heartbreak in their life, that includes having a divorce, that when you go through that level of pain of going through a divorce and somebody walking out of your life and your whole entire reality and your future shifts and changes, if you want a great love in your life, you have to clean up the crap in your life. And that includes discarding and walking away from relationships that no longer serve you. There are obviously some relationships that are, I guess, to some degree, completely unhealthy. Like people who are doing drugs, that's generally not a great relationship that you want to kind of put and invest a ton of energy in, even if it's a friendship. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if a guy has like 10 girls, they say they're friends, but really they were like dating them, or they have conversations about sexual intimacy that's between those two, not just talking about human sexuality, but sexuality between both of them, that is a massive liability. And you cannot expect your partner to build trust in you when you have stuff that's lurking in your phone. It's like, what's going on behind the screen here? So anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but these are some thoughts that I have. I want you to, I guess I'm dating this video to inspire you to not only choose relationships that are assets in your life, whether it's platonic, romantic, work relationships, but also for you to challenge you to develop yourself. Like, are you an asset in somebody's life, or will you be a liability? It's a great question. I think that this thought process can be on both sides. If you want a healthy, loving, deep, intimate relationship with someone, you have to clean up your life, and you have to become an asset in your own life and be an asset in other people's lives as well. It's just like buying a car. Nobody wants a crummy, shitty car in their life. They all want a car that is an asset, that will be a guaranteed, consistent thing. It will break down at times. It might run out of gas. But, it's going to need maintenance. That's normal. That's a human I'm using this as an analogy of being a human, but you know, you don't really want to be the lemon. So anyways, these are some thoughts that I have. If you have any thoughts or comments, please post them below. This is how we can help each other learn and grow and develop ourselves, by pinging off different thoughts and comments, because I don't live in an echo chamber, and I believe that we should learn from each other from various perspectives in life. If you'd like, please subscribe to this channel. You can help me build it. You can also support me on Patreon if you believe in my voice and my message. And thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you guys soon. Bye.